inside the concentric rectangles, if you will. And the outer one is called the court of the Gentiles, and anybody can go there. Now, when we're talking 2,000 years ago, when we're talking about the court of the Gentiles, we're talking about Jews and Roman pagans. That's who we're talking about. We're not talking about, we think of that today as Jews and Christians, but there was no delineation then, of course. So we're talking about Roman pagans. Non-Jews were allowed to come into this area, to the outer periphery, and then the next court was the court of the women. The non-Jews could not go into it, and the women would not be able to go beyond that. Sorry, that's the way it was. The next court is the court of the Israelites, men. Israelite men could go in there. That is the area where the altars were, where the offerings were brought, but they could not go into the temple itself. And the temple itself probably was not in the middle of the plaza, but set back a little towards one side. And there, only the priests and the Levites could enter. And this was, of course, something hereditary, coming from the tribe of Levi and the family of Aaron. The Levites coming from the tribe of Levi, the priests coming from the family of Aaron. And only the high priest could go into the Holy of Holies, and only then one day of the year, on Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, or the Day of Repentance. But I made these trifocals, but really, if such a thing exists, they should be quadrifocals, if there is such a thing. Because let's remember, before there was a Herod's temple, there was an earlier temple, there were two earlier temples. And before the temples, there was David. We are talking about the origins of Jerusalem. We are talking about the origins of Judaism. We are talking about the time when David, having captured this area, and we'll talk more about David when we go to the city of David, we are talking about the time that David brings the Ark of the Covenant to this spot. That's ultimately what we're talking about. We've started from the outside looking in, but now let's jump to the center. In the center of this, you might say there are two centers. Number one, in Jewish tradition, as it developed, this is the spot where Abraham almost sacrificed his son Isaac. Did that actually happen here? You know, who knows? What happens with these holy places, that once it becomes holy, then other things are attached to it, and you get levels upon levels upon levels, like pearls that are developing outwards. So, traditionally, this becomes associated with the place where Abraham almost sacrifices his son Isaac.